Yo, what's up, guys? Yesterday talking about the selection of the net 5s, now talking about the selection of your HoHs. I'm first gonna have everything that I think is useful in there, and I'm gonna have a few mentions on them. And then I'm gonna more classify it by maybe early game, begin game, end game, that kind of stuff. First of all, I would recommend pick new units. If there is not 10 units that you don't already have, then the moment then you can pick something more for skill ups and that kind of stuff. I'll mention a few on those later. But if you miss units, always go for the units you miss. And also give more value to light and dark than to the normal elementals, because in the end, normal elementals are easier to get. Might you already have all of the LMDs that are in here because you didn't miss any of the HOHs, for example? Then sure, that's where you can start thinking about, like, okay, skill ups and those kind of things. I will quickly run through the units all together here in order that I have over here. And then I'll go to more into specifics for, okay, what are they for begin game, end game, and mid game, and kind of stuff. So first of all, I have a star, and I put a star with an asterisk in here because a star I would say that you probably don't want to get from here. A star you probably want to get from some other kind of event where you immediately get her max skilled in the 4-star kind of scenario itself, or you select her from the Summoner's Way or anything like that. But it is an option. Maruna is an option. Carcano is an option. So these two are just PvE focused. Carcano is a bit more PvP focused. But these are options, once again. Would not really use this to put on fire, but just if you want to have fire options, I think those three will be the more interesting one. Abigail, same thing actually as the Astar. You probably will get it from some other event, but this is a really good one for begin game. End game wise, more Miyings is definitely an option right there, because Miying is probably the most used copy in Siege at the moment. And therefore, you also need a lot of skill ups, and you need her multiple times. So Miying might become very interesting for late game players. And then you have a few other PvE options with these two. Maybe your guild is using a bunch of chillings, then more chilling skill ups could help you a little bit. I think it will mainly be revolving around those. Then we have Wind, and I would only say that Kiklet is good. And yeah, besides that, that's pretty much just it. But then we go into Light and Dark, which is the ones I recommend most people to go for. Personally, my very first was on Jhin, because I can now use more Jhin Dove evolutions the moment I get more Dovas. Simple as that. So that's definitely one that is for late game very interesting. There's a whole bunch of good ones out there. I would say begin game, definitely something like a Gemini is really good. Often Gemini is kind of memed of like, oh, he misses, but if he lands, it's still speed lead, armor break, and a stripper, which is a really insane kit altogether. So it's definitely a great one over there. Leo May is still defense meta, which is definitely a nice one for siege defense mainly. I would also say that Misty is pretty interesting. It's more of an RTA-ish unit, can kind of bruiser it in siege as well in a long drawn-out fight. It's definitely not a bad one. I would say, especially early game, Lucas is insanely good. It is probably, yeah, I would say that if I were to make a begin game account, Lucas would be my first pick. And I think for a beginning game account, like you start from scratch, I will make the order of the things that I will take, because you have 10 of those, I think. But I'll get into that in a second later. Mimir is, for me, also a really good take, simply because speed lead, good in guild content. And I would also say Jasmine is a really good take, mainly because it is the armor break plus a reset, which is just incredibly strong in arena offense. And Light Gladiatrix is an interesting one as well, and I put this over here with a whatever that thing is called, I already forgot. But this is one of the very few that's a skill up for a 5-star. She can skill up either the Federica or a Kiara or something like that. So might you still be thinking about like, hey, I want to skill up my Federica, but I've been waiting to get these. You can actually grab a bunch of copies from here, which is pretty useful. Then on the other side, we have, of course, a Luna. Can't miss out on that one. Then we also have Monte. A little bit of siege defense meta, but it's no longer as crazy good. The Dark Steel Commander is the same thing as the Light Gladiatrix. This thing can skill up either the, I think it's like Lionel. It can skill up Patrick, and it can skill up Ian. Yeah. So those are definitely having a few good skill up options in there. Even if you have pretty much nothing to pick and you're super late game, just grab a bunch of copies of those, because it's probably more useful than any of the other things. Lible is a good option for a bomber. Amduet, of course, good option for any kind of defense. Yan is an okayish option for defense. And I think that is pretty much it. So let's now rearrange that by more of like a content-focused way. So let's say you start a fresh account the first 10 weeks. What would I recommend and in which order? So I've been thinking a little bit back and forth what I would do on the new fresh account. I think I would do something like this. I'm not 100% sure if I would go for this exact order. First of all, Lucas. I'm pretty sure I would go for that for sure. Like, this thing is just incredibly good for early game PvE in the Rift dungeons and that kind of stuff. So picking this one up in your first week is absolutely great. Luna getting that after that is really good as well. After that, you can more transition into PvE stuff, so, or more into like arena stuff. So I would say Gemini would help you out most. Then you maybe start focusing a little bit more on Siege, so then your Leo May for defense could be more interesting. Could also be a Mimir, but I think a Leo May in general is a little bit more all-round. Then we're talking a little bit more towards Arena, so we're going for Amduet. And then from here, it kind of depends which route you want to go. It's also, for example, let's say that you picked up a Sierra more early, then a Libli earlier would be more interesting as well. But then I just went for the Mimir, another Siege defense unit, as in this one. I went for Jin in case you want a Jindo Evolution. It's mainly just for the Jindo Evolution. There's nothing really else besides it, so it could be something else as well. I could give an argument for if you want to clear TOA Hell. This unit is really good for TOA Hell, so you might actually say slash, what's her name? String Mage, these are. And then go for a Libli. And then the last two, I wasn't too sure about. You could go for units you don't own yet, and they might be like interesting later. Maybe that's actually a better take than this. But I was feeling like, oh, what if you get like the other units and you don't really have that many skill ups and you want to use like 5 skill ups, it saves you 5 Devilmons, technically. That's kind of an option in there, but these two could also be anything else that you could kind of think of. In the end, I did notice that I didn't go for any of the fire, water, wind units, because in the end, if you have a choice to get an LD versus a fire, water, wind unit early game, or even if you don't have any of the, or like you're just missing a few, get whatever you're missing first. I think that's the main take. Get whatever you're missing first, and then you can transition into other things. So let's say that we're more of a late game account. What is interesting to take right then? Well, first of all, I would say this is going to be without order, but just going to say the things that I think are very useful. I would say more Jins are useful in case you want a Jindo Evolution. These two are useful because of the skill up potential. Then after that, we of course have the Miying, which is arguably best net 4, where you want to make multiple copies of these days. So that's definitely a good one right there. And afterward, it's kind of depending, like, okay, where do you need skill ups? So that could be on Peaklet skill ups, because these units in general do need a whole bunch. Do keep in mind, this is only if you already have all units. Otherwise, start Pokédexing first and then go for these. But to be honest, after this, I'm not too sure what to go for, because what is really useful for skill ups? Maybe you let me know in comments for things that you would say, like, oh, these are good for skill ups, or that is good for skill ups. Because in the end, I'm not even sure on my account. Like, I think I will go probably these. But afterward, I am not too sure. You could even double down more often into this, because you could also go for Tetra. So you have more skill ups over there. And yeah, you just add more skill ups on those kind of things is an option. If you want to go for something that is more difficult to skill up and also is used from time to time, I'm pretty sure you can go for Samurais. Samurais, which one does have the Samurai? I think Light was, yep, Light Samurai is an option. It's a bit back and forth on that, if that's actually super useful. I did also talk to a bunch of guildies, and most guildies also just kind of came to like these for skill ups, and then afterward it's not that special. So I would say for begin game, it's definitely interesting with the list that I just gave earlier. Mid game, it's mainly on like get all of the units you don't have yet, and then maybe add in a few like these. Especially, I would say more Miyings is definitely a great option right there. More Mirmirs, I would say Mimir is also something you could put multiple on defense of. You could give the same argument to not these, not those. To where that's Hyannis. For more skill ups, or more of those copies for defense in the first place. Monte maybe as well, but To be honest, these are, in my opinion, barely used in defense. These are barely used in defense. This one is actually pretty good on defense. So those are things that you could go back and forth. You could say Isabel is a decent unit too. Well, would I have given an Isabel to a beginner account? No, actually not really. Would I use multiple of Isabels? Personally, not really. I think there's better options out there. Like, if you want to nuke, just use an Orochi. It kills anything, like, regardless. So it's an okay unit, though. Maybe Isabel. Something along those lines. So that's my recommendation for these units. Let me know in the comments if you have a very different plan of units that you might say, like, hey, why do you not use this or that? I would say Diaz is actually also not a bad one. Yeah, I think Diaz might actually be better because Diaz, in the end, if you need a good dark tank, Diaz is probably one of the better dark tanks out there. So I would say having multiple Diaz in Siege offense, it's definitely not too bad. Like, we're really looking at, like, oh, where do we need multiple of at this moment? And for example, Lucas, you only need one. Leo May, you could give multiple Leo Mays as well. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that actually do have like 2 Leo Mays for defense kind of style. So definitely has its option in there. So I would say it would be something along these lines for most people towards end game accounts. And as mentioned, mid game accounts, it is a few, like, I would say look at the ones that they also made for the beginner accounts. But then for mid-game accounts, also, if you already have stuff, just start Pokédexing on what you don't have yet. So, first of all, Lucas again, Luna, Leo May for third. I would definitely say Jasmine, maybe Gemini as well still. But to be honest, the list kind of goes down the same as... It just depends how many units you already miss or don't miss. Yeah, I think for a mid-game account, it would be something along this line. And if you already have a unit, you just skip to the next. But the order is a little bit more depending on what you like personally. So that is the main thing for these HoHs. There's a whole bunch of good units out there, which the ones are that I've mentioned over here pretty much. The list goes a little bit further down. Wait, do you see the whole list? No, you don't see the whole list. You miss these. But yeah, you get the idea of what kind of is useful, what isn't useful. But the main thing is, like, what do you feel like your account needs? If I would say, like, oh, yeah, you need a Lucas and you already do your Rift Beast solely fine, then yeah, you don't need that. So it's just kind of depending on what you need. Also, most of the HoH units, I think a lot of people out there already do have the HoH, especially if you're like more in the late game. But if you're more early game, then maybe you start a new account, maybe you have skipped on all of those, then it's definitely good to follow this list. And also, maybe read the comment section. Maybe some people in the comment section have some great ideas. So if you have any great ideas, leave them in the comment section. Guys, thanks a lot for watching, and see you as always in the next one. And I did mention I am going to be playing a beginner account. I will be using the one list that I used for the beginner account that I just said earlier. Beginner account might start on the Thursday, might start on the Friday. I'm not 100% sure yet. So that will be on stream. So you do know where to find me on stream. A link of the stream is, of course, in the description down below as well. Guys, thanks for watching. See you later. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.